God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Dear
So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce our program flow for today. By 2:15, we will have our opening preliminaries, the opening prayer, and the singing of national anthem. After that, the statement of purpose and welcome address to be given by Miss Grace de Rosagento. And after that, the presentation of speaker to be given by Miss Celine May Castillon. At exactly 2:30, we will start the session and topic discussion to be given by Miss Karen Flood Kapapas. At 4 p.m., we will have our open forum and question and answer. And by exactly 4:30 p.m., we will have the presentation of certificate and word of gratitude to be given by Miss Hanili Fajardo. So for our webinar, we will have some reminders. In line with the Data Privacy Act, please be informed that the webinar meeting is recorded. Attendance during the online indicates your approval and consent. Number 2, turn off your microphone when it's not in use. When you would speak, click the hand raise icon. Then wait for the facilitator to address your concern. Use the chat function. You may use the chat box to send questions during the question and answer. 4, take down notes. Writing notes will help you remember important concept from the webinar. And lastly, be polite and courteous at all times. And I guess that's all. And before anything else, let me introduce myself. I am June Dave Nathaniel Tagsip from BSO Ad 1C, a freshman from Tagbilaran City College, and I will be your host for today. And without further ado, let us welcome Ms. Grace De Rosagento, registered guidance counselor, and our current school guidance counselor for her statement of purpose and welcome address. A round of applause, please.
Before anything else, let's just have our photo op. Kay maybe later some of us have kanang naay mga other concerns ba or basin mga wa ni mo ban kinutan og data. So before anything else, no, let's just have our photo opportunity first. Okay, so may I ask everyone to please turn on your cameras. So, Ma'am Celine, can you take a photo? Huh? Wait lang, guys. Different screen lang. Ma'am Celine, can you magsahan? Lisod ning host ano? Host ka nga to an. Sige. Alright. Sino Ma'am Celine? You ready na Ma'am Celine? Tingin na go. One, two, three, smile, first page. Okay, next slide. Next page. One, two, three, smile. All right. Okay, next page, Ma'am Celine. Okay, next page, pag-ay. One, two, three, smile. Okay. Ano pa di ay last page, ma'am? Okay, last page. One, two, three, smile. All right. Okay, so thank you, Nathan, no, for introducing me. So good afternoon, everyone. maklaro naman siguro akong tingog, no? So, whenever knowledge about psychological first aid and mental health response topics are shared by our experts, no? I truly get excited to start this activity because I know that we will be able to mobilize new partners for the society. So knowing that the helping professionals are insufficient and limited, mental health advocates equipped with the psychological first aid and mental health response skills will really be a great help in providing assistance and support. As we all know that the pandemic has not yet stopped, although there is hope, no, a light gleaming at the end of us to have a better and healthier tomorrow. However, a lot of people are still experiencing a really hard time to go through these difficult times, especially our peers, no, your peers, our students. And psychological first aid and mental health response is one of the help that volunteers like you could provide for those who need help, and thus training on how to do it is very essential. So today, I urge you to listen closely to our speaker, as there will be a lot of inputs that are very useful, not only for others, but for yourselves as well. Take this opportunity to learn, get ideas, and be the help that others need. And so I would like to welcome all of you to fill your heart with compassion and your minds with ideas and understanding of what we will be discussing today. Once again, welcome and good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Ma'am Grace, for welcoming us for this webinar. And now, to present us our guest speaker for this day, may I request Miss Celine May Castillon, our guidance staff and peer advisor. Ma'am Grace, take it away.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Nathan. For our speaker for today is someone who has taught specialized courses in BS Psychology and General Education courses at the College of Arts and Sciences at Holy Name University for 18 years. Aside from accomplishing her teaching tasks, she has also supervised the internship program and community involvement of the BS Psychology students. This year, Mom K, as her students fondly call her, has taken on the new role as the university's coordinator for gender and development under the Office of the Guidance and Counseling Services. Mom K has earned her BS Psychology degree at Trinity University of Asia, has completed her academic requirements for MA in Clinical Psychology at the University of San Carlos. She continues to aspire to finish her MA degree, both for her professional growth and to be able to serve the community. To be able to help the members of the community, especially those who are marginalized, has always been one of the advocacies of Mom K. In fact, she has in the past partnered with rehabilitative institutions like the Bohol District Jail, NGOs like BLDF and the local government unit in Baclayon, in order to bring awareness about the importance of mental health and also to extend services to the residents of BDJ and the municipality of Baclayon. In 2019, she has co-founded Pagpakabuhi, a volunteer-run organization which aims to promote mental health and provide services such as counseling, assessment, and other interventions that are accessible to everyone. She is happily married to her husband Ruel, and their union is blessed with two handsome teenagers, Malcolm and Magnus. Now, I will give the floor to our speaker, Mrs. Karen Flood Kapapas. Let's give her a warm virtual applause.
Thank you, Miss Celine. Hello, everyone. Can I start sharing my screen already? What happened? Okay. Sige. Okay. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Kamusta man ang tanan? How are you feeling today?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay lang, ma'am.
Okay lang. Sige. So without further ado, I will start already because we have so many things to talk about. And of course, the end goal is something useful for the, how do you call your facilitators, Miss Grace? Unsa ka tawag sa ilaha?
Have guidance volunteers, Dahigala guidance volunteers, ma'am.
Wow, napahigala nga, ano ha?
Yes.
The guidance volunteers.
School buddies.
Ah, okay. So marayahang the school body system. Can you see my screen already?
Yes, ma'am.
Nagtuyok-tuyok man ang ako I don't know ano nagtuyok-tuyok man siya. Okay, sige, na-project lang po. So again, let me start. So for my first talk, so this is just a primer on mental health and mental health issues. So that we are clear what we mean by mental health and what are the possible mental health issues that we will encounter in the community, in the field, or even and then of course, this is me. I'm Karen Flood Capapas. I do not claim to be an expert. In fact, I'm also a learner. I attend trainings, I attend seminars, and I also do my research. But I'm actually passionate about mental health. This is one of my advocacies. Yun yung main advocacy na ako at present. That's why I also co-founded mga groups with na motabang sa mental health. Okay, now this is the roadmap to all my presentations for mga 2 hours naman siguro, Miss Grace, no? So, tanawo na ito, unsang pagpaiguan. Kasi naala ko yung mga point na i-highlight kung unsay importante na magamit niyo sa inyong institution. But I will be starting on this primer. And here is the outline for the first lecture. So basically, definition of terms, and then focusing in on there's a lot of mental health problems. Focus lang ko sa tulo kay we don't have the luxury of time. So I will be focusing on depression, anxiety, and of course yung suicide, because people are interested in that, and because also of what we have observed to be the rising incidence of suicide. Now, before I start, yung ano man no, yung mental health, yung mga related topics, yung suicide, it's something na it's kind of also sensitive, that after you hear my presentation, you might feel any discomfort or naaba ko ma-trigger na negative emotions. That is why I would like to present kinsa may pwede natong i-approach whenever we need help. And also, I think people would also approach you kung kinsa may nailhan ninyo, asa ba sila pwede makakuha og mga services. So ako na lang po ni i-present. Ako lang i-flash on screen. So this is the group that I co-founded, Pagpakabuhi. We are based in Baclayon. And aside from giving seminars, yung awareness, we also do give counseling services. You have on the screen the numbers that you can call, and you can also find us on Facebook. Then there's also Project Bohol Mental Health. So yung medyo pang mga bagets-bagets ni pang youth no sila. And they're also available. You can also search them on Facebook. And we're actually nag-tie up na may joint project ng Project Bohol Mental Health Awareness. We are now offering telecounseling. So if you want to schedule an appointment, or if you know somebody na who needs telecounseling patakaron no kay because of the safety issues and protocols. So you can either send them a message, PBMHA sa FB, or contact them through that number, 0938-089-0081. I will just breeze through the other groups, but we are so fortunate that in Bohol, a lot of these groups want to extend services to the Boholanos, and that the services that they're giving are free. Maunay lamian na kay, of course, yung counseling, yung therapy can also be expensive. Okay, and this one is Manila-based, yung pinaka-hotline na tawag na Hope Line. And this one is yung kauban yung sa tawag na more sister group that we have in Cebu based in the University of San Carlos. Okay, now I'd like to start with this one because there is a tendency for people to take care of their physical health. In fact, no, if masakit ta, it's normal, it's so commonplace for us to go to a doctor to drink medicine. Pero pag mental health nang gihisgutan, mura bag na hesitation in seeking treatment from a professional. Okay, so I'd like to emphasize na of course, you cannot achieve optimum physical health kung imo sad pasagda ng imuhang mental health. Okay, and in fact, mental or emotional health is part of the interconnected components of health and wellness. And so you have other components as well. You have intellectual, social, spiritual, financial, environmental, physical, and they are it's as written here, it's interconnected. So meaning when one functions, when you develop one, the other components get to be affected also. Let's say for example, yung physical, if we're sick, if naatay condition, dili maayo atong physical health, makaapekto po na siya sa ato ang emotion, sa pag-regulate sa ato mga gibati, sa ato ang mga positive or negative thoughts, di ba? Pati pag ang atong interaction with other people. If we're sick, we don't want to interact with other people. So that's how these components are interconnected. So what is my point? Na dapat we should always go for holistic development. Dili lang isa ka component ang i-develop nato, but all the other components as well. Now, another one that I would like to highlight or underscore, because I hear people tell me this if I ask them, do you consider yourself to be healthy? Mangutana ko, ana, healthy ba ka para sa imuhang pananaw? And some of the answers that I would receive is, wala man ko gibati, wala man ko masakit, wala man ko ma-hospital, or I'm not drinking any maintenance medicine. So I think I'm healthy. But it doesn't mean that if we do not have any illnesses, any diseases, that we are healthy. In fact, yung World Health Organization mismo, it defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, let's focus now because, of course, although there are interconnected factors, our goal for today, our focus is all about mental health. Unsa man ning gitawag nga mental health, so it's a state of well-being. Ikaw, no, this is some kind of subjective. Ikaw mismo, you feel good, no? You feel well. Okay? Kumpara sa ikaw mismo kay baka na murag there's something wrong with me, or there's something there are indications na I'm not in the best possible mental health. But aside from the subjective component, naapod tay mga manifestations na maayo or our mental health is in a good place. Of course, one would be if we can realize our own achievements and abilities. So meaning, makahibaw ta unsay kaya nato, asa man nato to mga strengths, unsa may mga limitations nato. Another one is that we can cope with the normal stresses of life. Yung mga day-to-day situations and problems, kayang-kaya na nato mag-cope. And then we also have to be able to work productively and fruitfully. So if this person is working productively and fruitfully, so pasabot ana, yung mental health is at its optimum. And then of course, the last one is to be able to make a contribution to the community. Now, this is the Mental Health Act. It was a Senate bill. Nakalimot ako sa 1190 man siguro to when this was submitted as a Senate bill, but it's already ratified as a Republic Act number 11036. And if you look at the definition of mental health, it's somewhat similar also to the one that I gave you. No, state of well-being, you're able to realize your abilities and potential, cope with the normal stresses of life, and so on and so forth. So na-capture po ani nga balaod yung pinaka-essence of what mental health is all about. Now, mental health is of course also about kaniha kay coping with normal stresses or everyday stresses, but we will also encounter adversities, and we're able to cope with that. That's part of our mental health, and it's also about diba? Further developing our own abilities. Kaya ganiha, it was all about realizing or being aware of your abilities, your talents. But because of our mental health, we're also able to develop it further. And the last is importante sa ato ang mental health, that we're able to form connection, no? To connect with others and then to build wholesome and meaningful relationships with them. Now, why should mental health be a concern for us, especially if pasig na mo ingon na wala man ko gibati, marag okay raman ko, chill raman ko. No, I don't have anybody in my family suffering any mental health issues or problems. But even if you are not affected, when you have someone who has mental health problem, the community is affected, and therefore you're part of the community. So affected gihapon ta. So every one of us should really be concerned about mental health. And when we talk about mental health issues and problems, no one is immune. Pwede dato ba, pobre ba, batanon, tigulang, guwapo, guwapa, anybody could be affected. Pero naala yung mga tao na they are put at a higher risk. And we're looking at people who are poor, homeless, the unemployed, yung mga victims of violence, yung mga abused women, yung mga bata, indigenous populations, and so on. And as we have already established dun sa interconnectedness of the components, tanang components ng health, they're closely interwoven, and actually they are the strands that hold life together. Meaning, unsa may meaning sa atong kinabuhi, unsa may makapahold sa atong kinabuhi, all those different components, including the mental, the physical, and the social health. So mental health is important. It's crucial for individuals, but it is also crucial for societies and countries. Okay, now let's talk about mental health issues. And so if you look at the list that I have, yung uban na ani, murabag problems, difficulties, stress, these are all common issues that anyone from us could experience. So yung mental health issues could range from everyday stresses, the everyday situations or event, to yung mga resulting from something unusual or traumatic, and even to a point na naanay uban na they would develop a long-term serious conditions na dili na makaya on their own to cope with it. They need treatment. Okay, so ingon ana ka wide range ang mga mental issues that we are seeing, and especially now the readings that I am perusing or kada ba ako mga gipang search karong gi-browse na ako, gi-studyhan na ako, a lot of the mental health issues karon are being complicated with the COVID-19 na issue. Especially, di ba, as I've mentioned, yung connectedness that's important for our mental health. Pero ang isang solution to try to curb the effect of the virus is to isolate people. So that would definitely take a toll on the mental health of people. So karon siguro, if we're even prior to COVID, we're seeing already rise in mental health issues. Masamot na karon during the pandemic, mas na-complicate ang mga mental health issues. Now, let's look at some of the mental health issues facts, including statistics. And yung mental, neurological, and substance use, so they were grouped together, and they make up 10% of the global burden of disease and 30% of non-fatal disease burden. Mao ni mga global researches on unsa man mga disorder or unsa nga diseases ang maka-apekto, maka-cause og burden sa economy, maka-cause of different consequences, disability. And 10% of that would be yung mga ato ang mental, neurological, and substance use. Now, around 1 in 5 of the world's children and adolescents have a mental disorder. And depression is a common, I cannot say it's the most common, wala tay statistics for that, but it's really a common mental disorder. Do you know anyone or nakadungog ba mo of someone who has depression? And an estimated 5% of adults suffer from depression. Next, around 1 in 9 people in settings affected by conflict. So yung mga gera, yung mga political strife and war, they also have impacts on the mental health. No? Maka-cause po sila mental disorder and then, or siguro maka-trigger ang appropriate term. And people with severe mental disorders basically die younger, 10 to 20 years earlier. So naa siya effect sa ato ang mortality. Now, of course, let's focus on the suicide statistics, especially that the World Suicide Prevention Day was celebrated in September. And then yung October is the month for mental health awareness. Now, an estimated 703,000 people die by suicide worldwide each year. So global na siya. And over 1 in every 100 deaths, so that's basically 1.3%, in 2019 were the result of suicide. And the global suicide rate is over twice as high among men than women. So na siya, gender, sana disaggregated ang statistics niya, higher for men and then compared to women. Of course, they have their theories, including yung mga lalaki are not encouraged in most culture to express their emotions, express their sadness, or basin pwedeng wala po sila kaayong social support. So that could account for this one. Now, over half or 58% of all deaths by suicide occur before the age of 50 years old. And suicide occurs across all regions in the world, pero over 3/4 or 77% of global suicides in 2019 occurred in low and middle income countries. That's why we're saying na ay association ang poverty, ang low income resource with yung higher risk for developing mental illnesses and also for suicidal behavior to occur. And in the Philippines, let's go to the statistics that we have in the Philippines. It is now, in 2020, it's now the 27th leading cause of death. There was an increase by 25.7%. And doon naman sa mga intentional self-harm, so na ay attempt at suicide, although wala na complete ang suicide. In 2019, the figure is 2,808, and in 2020, it was 3,529. But we're not even sure kung ingon ani lang ang figure because these are all figures that were reported. What about those that were not reported? So baka if ma-dig pa to or ma-research pa to, mas musaka ang statistics. Okay, now again, I will just be focusing kadaghang mental health issues. I know kadaghang mental illnesses, but I will only be able to talk about depression, anxiety, and suicide. Siguro yung reason sad na ako for choosing the three, I'm not saying they are the most common, pero kasagaran sa amo pong ma-encounter with the services that we offer, parang maoy kasagaran na mga issues, no, depression, anxiety, and suicide. Na po yung iba na ay psychotic features and so on. Of course, yung substance abuse. But again, daghan man tang storyahan. So basin in the future, I hope, knock on wood, basig ma-invite pa ko balik and we can still talk more about the other mental health issues. Unsa na nagsigig doorbell, Miss Grace? Timer na.
Na yung mga mo, bago ka na-receive, ma'am.
Kala mo pop-in, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Kung bakit may doorbell? So let's talk about depression. Now, I have a video pero saan ganito, Miss Grace, para mugawas ang kinaaman siya dapat na diri sa advance siguro. Okay, para mo share ang sound and ma-optimize sa video clip. Okay, so I have a video yung black dog. Asa naman ka black dog? So naghang pod si laptop here.
Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to. He liked to ruin my appetite. He chewed up my memory and my ability to concentrate. Doing anything or going anywhere with the black dog required superhuman strength. At social occasions, he'd sniff out what confidence I had and chase it away. My biggest fear was being found out. I worried that people would judge me. Because of the shame and stigma of the black dog, I was constantly worried that I'd be found out. So I invested vast amounts of energy into covering him up. Keeping up an emotional lie is exhausting. Black dog could make me think and say negative things. He could make me irritable and difficult to be around. He would take my love and bury my intimacy. He loved nothing more than to wake me up with highly repetitive and negative thinking. He also liked to remind me how exhausted I was going to be the next day. Having a black dog in your life isn't so much about feeling a bit down, sad or blue. At its worst, it's about being devoid of feeling altogether. As I got older, the black dog got bigger and he started hanging around all the time. I'd chase him off with whatever I thought might send him running. But more often than not, he'd come out on top. Going down became easier than getting up again. So I became rather good at self-medication, which never really helped. Eventually, I felt totally isolated from everything and everyone. The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life. I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, the black dog affects millions and millions of people. It is an equal opportunity mongrel. I also learned that there was no silver bullet or magic pill. Medication can help some, and others might need a different approach altogether. I also learned that being emotionally genuine and authentic to those who are close to you can be an absolute game changer. Most importantly, I learnt not to be afraid of the black dog, and I taught him a few new tricks of my own. The more tired and stressed you are, the louder he barks, so it's important to learn how to quiet your mind. It's been clinically proven that regular exercise can be as effective for treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants, so go for a walk or a run and leave the mutt behind. Keep a mood journal. Getting your thoughts on paper can be cathartic and often insightful. Also keep track of the things that you have to be grateful for. The most important thing to remember is that no matter how bad it gets, if you take the right steps, talk to the right people, black dog days can and will pass. I wouldn't say that I'm grateful for the black dog, but he's been an incredible teacher. He forced me to reevaluate and simplify my life. I learnt that rather than running away from my problems, it's better to embrace them. The black dog may always be part of my life, but he'll never be the beast that he was. We have an understanding. I've learned through knowledge, patience, discipline and humour, the worst black dog can be made to heal. In doing so, the only shame is missing out on life.
Okay. Sige, how do I? See how do you return? Now, so that was a black dog project. They wanted to basically let people know how it is to suffer from clinical depression. And also, it was a way of distinguishing between kay kasagaran nato no kanang naara tay gamay na bation, we feel bad, we feel down, we feel sad. Atong gabito na term is I feel depressed, but feeling sad is different from feeling depressed, because when you say depressed, it's a deeper negative emotion. And having yung gitawag nilang clinical depression, yung depression that's already a mental illness, a mental problem, is also different. No, yung pain symptoms are deeply rooted in not just a response to a negative event. So that was the point behind the Black Dog project. And also, mauman mga symptoms na some of the symptoms were mentioned, but I'd like to highlight also that if you notice, naiuban, no, they will increase or gain weight, naiuban mag-lose ng weight, maniwang matambok, naiuban mag-insomnia, naiuban magsige po katulog. So it's always a different presentation or manifestation for each person. Kada usa nato pwedeng lahi atong experience sa mga mental issues, and lahi pud ang makit-an sa uban. That's why naiuban mo ingon na lang ano nag-suicide man to siya, ngisi-ngisi pa man to siya. Presentation, each one of us will experience it differently, will manifest different symptoms. So mao nang dili pare-pareho, which also makes yung predicting or diagnosing difficult, no? Pero siyempre naa naman tay mga tools in order for us to diagnose and to assess that appropriately. Now, what's ano man siya? Naining tingo, Grace. Ako na lang to yung escape. Kay murag wa na delete tong tingo gato siya. Yung anxiety, I think, I don't know if I'm correct, but the Boholano equivalent would be kaguol. And it's different from fear in a sense na, although parehas sila no fear and anxiety, murag when we experience it, duol-duol, pati yung mga physical manifestation where we're afraid, pwede tayo maka-experience ng tension in the stomach, yung mga shaking of the hands or the muscles. Same with anxiety. Pareha silang negative emotions, pero yung anxiety is actually future-oriented, meaning wala pa nahitabo. You're already experiencing the somatic, the physiological sensation, and yung psychological, yung mga worries nimo. Pero you're actually reacting to something that has not yet happened. No? Pwede ganing dili pud mahitabo, naara sa imong mind na nag-worry ka ana. Pero yung fear, it's present-oriented. It's an immediate reaction to what is there in the environment. Na ay iro, napaakan ka, so nahadlo ka sa iro. That's your immediate reaction to what happened to you. Now, another similar concept with fear and anxiety is yung gitawag nilang panic attack. And in fact, yung panic attacks, mas ma-complicate po niya ang anxiety, because yung panic attack, mauni yung, I don't know if you know people or if you've heard of people na kanang out of the blue, mukalit lang, na manggahi ang limbs, maglisod og ginhawa. Some would even describe it as mura sila ma-heart attack, pero when doctors check on them physically, wala may problema. So ang mahitabo ani, siguro tungod sa ilahang mga kaguol, sa ilang anxiety, nag-panic attack sila, and mas musamot na ilahang anxiety. Some of them would even react in a way that di na lang sila mogawas og bay, kay mahadlok sila na basig maka-experience na po sila panic attack. They're also afraid of how people will perceive them, basig ingno na buang ko or whatever. So mauna yung mga related concepts. But of course, anxiety and fear are normal emotional states. No? Each one of us, nakasuway taan na, maka-experience taan na because of something in the environment, a stimuli na either it represents a threat of loss, mawad-an, or it will cause us harm. But when does it become disordered? So kanang you develop already anxiety disorders. So makahibawtag disordered kapag pervasive, meaning in all aspects of our lives na si anxiety and fear, sa school, sa balay, sa atong mga social gatherings, it's persistent nga karon na sunod na adlaw, and so on. And it involves excessive tendencies to avoid and escape. So atong buhaton, muli kahita, we don't go to that place anymore, we don't go out of the house, and the anxiety symptoms and avoidance cause clinically significant distress and impairment. Mas musamot ang atuang anxiety because of the escape and the avoidance. Now, to also distinguish between the two, I have different say tawag ani scenario. All you have to tell me, no, guessing game lang ta ani. Inalang ko kung normal ni siya nga fear and anxiety or disordered na siya. Okay, is that clear? Ano lang, inalang ko or somebody siguro nagadahan mag-answer. Let's have the first one, constant and substantiated worry that causes significant distress and interferes with daily life. What do you think? Is this just normal anxiety and fear or disordered na siya? Disordered down, any answer? Okay, and the answer is yes, disordered na. Okay, na may significant distress, maka-interfere na sa iyahang daily life. What about the second one? You worry about paying bills, landing a job, or other important life events. Normal or disordered?
Normal.
Normal? Yes, normal. Out of the blue, panic attack and preoccupation with the fear of having another one. Normal or
Disordered.
disordered? Yes. Avoiding social situations for fear of being judged, embarrassed, or humiliated. Di na lang makikamig. Di na lang mo tambay. What do you think?
Disorder.
Disorder. Yes. Next, a case of nerves. So, do you sweat before a big test? Kulbaan ba kayo? Mag-exam? Stage performance? Normal or disordered? Normal. Yes. Anxiety, sadness, or difficulty sleeping immediately after a traumatic event. Normal, disordered.
Disorder.
Normal.
It's normal.
Okay, it's a traumatic event. All of us, it's normal reaction na maka-experience ng anxiety, sadness, or difficulty. What is already disordered is if after several months or years before pa nahitabo, you have recurring nightmares or flashbacks. And the last one is the fear of dangerous objects, place, or situations. Normal or disordered?
Normal.
Yes, that's normal. Di ba? Kada isa nato na aman jud kahadlukan na mga object. Pwede pong lugar or situations. Okay, so that is how we distinguish between normal fear and anxiety and yung gitawag natong naa na kay na develop na anxiety disorders. And what they found out yung mga experts na when you have anxiety disorders, there's a tendency for you to have another disorder na siya secondary diagnosis. And ang pinaka-common ani is na siya anxiety disorder na apod siya depression. And also, yung anxiety disorder is associated with several yung mga yung mga sakit ba na yung mga pain na ay mga somatic manifestation, migraine, allergies, no, na siya association sa anxiety disorders. And Weissman and colleagues found that 20% of patients with panic disorder had attempted suicide. So although ang depression taas siya og association sa suicide, it's not the only disorder that will also might lead to suicide. Yung anxiety, yung panic attack will also might also lead to suicide. Okay, so these are just the types of anxiety disorders. Daghan ni sila. So dili na ako ni isa-isahon. But I hope you're familiar with some, like yung specific phobia. Kinadaghanan man ng mga specific phobia. Yung agoraphobia, they don't want to go out of the house because, of course, yung mahadlok sila mag-panic attack and so on and so forth. Now, just like yung gipakita sa video ganiha sa depression, there is treatment. Okay? And in fact, when we know also of yung mga precipitating factors, yung mga factors na pwedeng maka-lead into developing these disorders, there are also ways for us to prevent. Okay? So ang treatment sa anxiety is psychotherapy. So you go and talk to a counselor and psychotherapist. Pwede po ka mo join ng mga support groups, people with the same issues, mental health issues as you have. Naapoy mga stress management techniques, yung pharmacology meaning na ihatag ng mga tambal, pero importante sa and really helpful sa anxiety is that we have the will No, kaya jud nato na i-control, i-regulate ang ato ang mga emotions. Sabi nga nila, we need to manage our emotions or else our emotions will manage us. Mauna na mahitabo if we have anxiety disorders. Okay? And then the third mental health issue is suicide. Is this an issue in your institution? Will you be addressing also problems with this one?
There are some.
Naapod yung mga na-report.
Yes.
Okay, and siyempre, no, mura bag, it's the most dramatic daw and tragic outcome of mental illnesses. Okay, and when we say suicide, it's the act of intentionally causing one's own death. And siyempre, dili man na siya diretso dayon no, na completed suicide. It starts with ideation, maghuna-huna, mag-consider, and then sunod ada is mag-plan na. Formulation of specific method, pwedeng ano na gani, no, magsugod-sugod na siya palito kung sayang gamiton, and then the suicidal attempt. So meaning kung ni-attempt, no, na I intend to harm, also potentially injurious yung behavior with intent to die, pero wala lang siya na completed. And of course, the most tragic would be the completed suicide, the death caused by suicide. Now, some facts about suicide. In the past, when I present this one, myths versus facts, pero naalaman tayo mga bagong gi-release ang WHO na when we report information about suicide, mas mustik daw ta sa mga positive. Kaya na ay tendency na pag yung mga negative, pwede maka-trigger po sa mga those people who also have suicidal ideation or who are also planning to resort to suicide. So, ano lang ta sa facts, sa positive aspect. I think human nature na mas maka-capture, maka-trigger yung mga negative na aspects. So 8 out of 10 people who resorted to suicide have spoken about their intent before killing themselves. So dilita mo ingon na how I wish na ning storya siya because daghan nila na ay say tawagan na ipahiwatig, no, mag-post sa FB ba na sa social media, color black na lang yung profile. So before doing it, naa sila mura bag mga acts or they're trying to reach out to call for help before resorting to the final act. And people who resort to suicide may feel hopeless and depressed but have not necessarily lost touch with reality. Intact pa ang reality nila. Discussing suicide openly shows that you take the person seriously and that you care. It's helpful and not harmful. Dili to ilang giingon na dita maghisgot-hisgot kay basig ma-stimulate, no, na maghisgot tag dili na ama na nila, no, na basig nag-ideation na sila, nag-plans na sila, mas makatabang hinuon if we talk about it openly. In fact, siguro Miss Grace, also if this is a concern in your institution, you can also do or have trainings later on how to respond to yung especially for mga suicide crisis. Okay? Suicide is a problem among the elderly. So mas daghan ang sa elderly. Pero actually what we are seeing now is mas ni-triple na pod ang rate sa mga 15 to 24 years old. Naapot ay mga cases na even way younger. And of course, suicide occurs among all types of people. Di na mo pili og gwapo ba ka o di ka gwapo, dato ka, sikat ka. It's possible that someone who attempted suicide is trying to get attention. Kaya sila na, aga patagad lang na, oy, nagsik na siya attention. Yes, that's true. Pwede nagsik sila attention. Pero di ba, libre ra ba ng attention? And not giving that attention na kinahanglan ng tawhana could be something fatal. Ano na po magmahay afterwards. So bahala na nag-need siya attention, tagaan natog attention kay basig we could in fact even save lives that way. But of course, we also have to remember na we cannot stop all. Basig na adjud tay in the course of us trying to help them na ay dili na to ma-stop, magpadayon sila. Pero at least sa atong effort na gibuhat, naapod tayo ma-save. And most people who resort to suicide actually want to end their pain, not their lives. So they are under an intense pain, pwedeng invisible, pwedeng para nila no one understands them and that they have already lost hope na the pain will ever go away. That's what they want to end, the pain. Okay, now we cannot pinpoint one cause. So natin gitawag na precipitating factors. Murag mauni ang trigger, no, gibuwagan, death of a loved one, gi-arrest, na siya serious financial problems. But prior to that, naapoy mga risk factors, no, na anay mga conditions or situations na naa sa tao individually or sa iyahang society and culture. No, like if naay stigmatization sa iyahang society about mental illness and naa siya'y na-develop na mental illness, that could be a risk factor na mas mo increase ang iyahang tendency na mo resort sa suicide. But what could actually, yung crucial, whether one would do the final act would be the protective factors. So naatay precipitating, naatay risk factors, pero naapod tayo protective factors. And siyempre, if you notice, yung na-adjust sa one sa list is yung social support, the connections to our friends, family, the community, pag sa atong school, sa mga peers. Okay? And all these other protective factors. That's why we say na yung suicide is actually preventable. If we strengthen the protective factors, miski na ka-experience siya og precipitating factors na loss, na ay exposure to harm, available or present sad ang risk factors, pwedeng dili jud or ma-heal pa ang person because of the protective factors. Okay? Now, how do we detect kung ang usa ka tawo, no, murag warning signs ba na warning signs na nag-contemplate siya, nagplan siya og suicide? Yung pinaka-acronym is PATH-WARM, ideation. So how do you know na naguna-huna siya suicide? Magawas man ni sa iyang inistoryahan, sa iyahang isuwat, sa iyahang drawing, sa iyahang post sa social media, na abay substance abuse, kay mas mo increase man ang tendency, ang vulnerability. Feeling ba niya wala na purpose? Naaba siya anxiety, agitated, feeling trapped, hopelessness, withdrawal. Usually na siya mga friends, no, chika-chika, dili na siya ganahan, anger, recklessness, and mood changes. Miski one or more, dapat daw gani mo interfere. We start the conversation. We talk to the person. We offer support para ma-prevent ang suicide. And so nanangutanan ako, unsa man joy cause? No, we cannot pinpoint one single cause. It's always the interaction of many things like hereditability, yung genetics. Yung epigenetic is the interaction of the environment with the genes. Pwedeng miski naa siya inherit niya ang tendency pero naa siya i-change siya yung environment, dili mo manifest ka na nga disorder. Other biological factors like yung abnormality or problems sa nervous system, sa hormones, okay, apil yung psychological factors, yung intrapsychic conflict, di ba, yung demands ni id for something that is pleasurable clashes with the demands of the superego to go for what is morally right. Dapat mabalance man na siya or else na ay intrapsychic conflict. In the course of development, from childhood to old age, naapon na siya yung mga, pwede po siya mo-contribute to the development of mental health. Something in the society, no? Walay support, walay available na healthcare facilities. These are all factors that contribute to whether we're going to have optimum mental health or we will develop mental health issues. And so, reminder, mental health problems are treatable. They are also preventable, and the suicide is preventable. So never give up on someone with a mental illness. When I is replaced by we, illness becomes wellness. Pain is real, but so is hope. And the last one, kindness, which is free, free ramani, is an antidote to suicide. So that's it for my first presentation. Do you have any questions so far? Kinsay moderator gani di ay ani Ms. Please.
Alright, so nawa man si among moderator. Si Nathan.
O sing na sila question ba? Ma-address na to a few questions before we go to the next
If
one.
you have any questions, so you can ask Ma'am Karen about it.
Baka
Or
naigit
siguro
siya.
maybe later pa man nagkuhan pa
Ah,
sila,
sige.
digest pa sila nga sa
And you just
our
take note of your
sessions.
question. So you can also take note of your questions, and then basig later, no, okay, we have time and down later para to
Yes.
really ask.
They
Okay,
can
so
also type their questions in the chat box, ma'am.
yes.
So we
Yeah.
can
Palihog
read
lang ko
them.
monitor sad ha kung naa sila yung mga
Yes.
question. So, kini man jud ang actually ang pinaka-importante no murag ang tumong sa tanan is yung I want to share with you. I want to give you a training or talk about psychological first aid. And although this one is originally intended for victims or survivors of calamities, kaya nga sa first aid, no, na nahitabong calamity, we apply first aid, na physical, tapos na psychological. But when pwede nato ni siyang tailor suit or i-fit sa inyong situation sa campus na I want you to saan man ako Miss Grace no baka but we don't have enough time pero siguro i-assignment na I want you to really come up based on the PFA. I want you to come up with a protocol on how you're going to address, how you're going to respond, what are you going to do if someone goes to you na face-to-face, pwedeng mo chat. How do students now interact with the guidance office DI?
Online, ma'am.
Online na tanan.
Yes, ma'am.
So pwedeng i-chat. Naaba po mo call, wala rasad.
There are some, since we have kanang online forms, there are
Mhm.
some who would opt to kanang have telecounseling. So kami ang mutawag nila. You'll provide their number. And then there are some also who opt nga mag-chat lang. Oo. So, na.
And who is manning the chat room? Kisa mo bantay ana, kisa nag-monitor. Ang counselor.
I do basically everything.
Oh my. So ato ni empower ang ato ang mga bodies. Okay, it's also a good training for them,
Yes.
no? So siguro ihatag ni nato na assignment baka pwede later mag-grouping ta kay lahi man ang pag-address nato sa kung face to face, lahi kung by chat. Para na ako no pinaka challenging ng chat. Siyempre, you cannot see the person, you cannot study the nonverbals, so challenging na siya. And then by call, it doesn't have to be the counselor right away, di ba? Maunang trabaho sa first aider. There should be someone who will gather the information kung ano jud in the crisis jud kung kinahanglan jud na siya i-refer, that's the time na i-refer niya sa counselor. Would you agree na ay uba na mo approach nato na ganahala na ay kastorya? Dili jud emergency situation nang marang madalang istorya and mas makastorya sila if peers kaedad nila. What do you think? Yung mga ano nato, buddies nato ani. Have you experienced that in the past? Kanung ga face-to-face pa ta, naabay mo approach mo dong sa guidance na pwede ra magkamo-kamo ang mustorya na dili jud siya situation that calls for counseling. Ayu, napatay mga kauban na ni. Tinood na? Na pwede ba on our end, di ba, there is something that we can do, that we can offer. And that is actually the beauty of psychological first aid. Mao gani, I think akong tanaw ani ka ng psychological first aid. Gidesign sa ni siya in a way na pwedeng you don't have to be a professional and expert as long as you have the basic training, the basic know-how. Kay kung tanan i-refer nato, iasa nato sa expert, limited ra ba kaayo in buhol, no? The experts that we have, the mental health experts, the counselors, the specialists. So atong mga alay ani, like in your institution, would be yung ato ang mga peer facilitators, yung atong mga body sa mga estudyante, mga higala. And that's why I will just give you a background on psychological first aid, pero I will also give you an assignment na I want you to come up with a protocol. Siguro kahit na lang 2 groups para naman na ay yung deeper information that we will have. Now, how are you going to apply this? On how you're going to respond. Kana bang steps lang? If someone calls, if someone chat, ingon ani nga problema, unsaon man na nimo. So, and we will base it on the psychological first aid. So again, yung psychological first aid was actually developed para sa mga emergency situations, para sa mga survivors, pero karon gi-apply na po na siya sa mga schools, sa mga even yung mga centers or mga clinic, pwede natin i-apply yung principle. So it's a humane supportive response to a fellow human being who is suffering and who may need support. That's why dili kinahanglan expert or practitioner, no, kay it's a fellow human being. As long as kaya nimo mohatag og comfort, no, mahatag nimo ang iyang needed na attention, then you can do psychological first aid. And it also helps normalize worry and other overwhelming emotions. But because part of what we do is ipa-feel nila na kanang ilahang gibati, that's valid, that's normal. Lahi man ang iyahang gibati, lahi ang reaction sa uban because lahi-lahi bayatang mga tao. But it doesn't mean na dili na valid or may dayon na abnormal or naa siya dayon og disorder. Okay, so it's also designed to help individuals build resilience and support, and it's the answer to supporting people experiencing stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. Okay, so ideally, if may calamity, dapat daw mahatag ni siya first 2 weeks of the incident. Pero kung wala may calamity, like if we're going to use it to our clientele, sa ato ang mga students, anytime that they come to us for help, pwede nato siyang gamiton. Okay, but and crucial is to make in connection and to provide immediate intervention. Naay gihapon, naanadayon ni action ba, naanadayong sometimes, you know, even just by listening, no, naanatay nahatag na change, na kabaguhan, no, pwede na gani malighten ang ilahang load kay naminaw ta. So that's how psychological first aid is important. Now, so we have studies na ipakita jud nila na naay effect, especially now they're using this also to yung mga tao na mga na-experience because of the pandemic. Now, these are the 7 key components. And if you notice, no, any one of us, again, no, mauna kong i-highlight. So I also, ganahan sad ko anong PFA, pero ganahan ko ba nga maging basis siya on how we're going to set our protocols or sabay tawag ana nato no, murag process flow on how we're going to respond to people. Okay, anyone can do it as long as, again, you have the basic training. So, care for immediate needs, protect from further threat and distress, providing comfort and counsel, support for practical tasks, provide information on coping, connect with social supports, and educate about normal responses. Maunay core components or the 7 key components. Ato pa po ng isa-isahon. So PFA is not about counseling. It's not about professional counseling. Dili ka ang professionals lang ang makabuhat. However, not everyone may be open or mag-need the psychological first aid. And these are the goals. So what we do is, kung nawala siya sa iyahang family, bring the person to the family, but we have to also meet the basic needs. We have to listen, we have to give accurate and timely information, and if need na siya need na dili kita ang maka-provide, we have to make referral. Then we end the conversation, and of course, with everything that we do, we also have to take care of ourselves. That's why ang last na ako is just a few slides lang on self-care. Because if we cannot take care of ourselves, ma-undermine natong mental health, unsa man po'y mahatag nato ng serbisyo sa uban, di ba? Murag mingon sila na you cannot give what you don't have. So kung ikaw mismo nagproblema ka, dili po kakahatag og services or help to other people. Now, who to give it to? Pwedeng very distressed people, ideally. Pero again, when we tailor suit it to your operation, to how you respond, anyone who comes to you, anyone who needs help, pwede ninyong tagaan or you can respond to them. Okay? And who not to give it to. So kung serious life-threatening injuries, dapat automatically dalhin jud na sa emergency dayon. Dili na mag-psychological first aid pa kanya, life-threatening naman gani. People so upset that they cannot care for themselves or their children. People who may hurt themselves, and of course, if you are endangered, no, kamo mismo na ay threat, then don't give psychological first aids. When and where? So upon first contact, kung in times of calamity within the first 2 weeks, where kahit bisag asa pero just make sure that the place is safe enough and there is privacy. Kasi siyempre no, mo share man na sila sa ilahang mga problems, emotions. So let's also protect their dignity and confidentiality. Now, so mauni mga dapat daw po na i-consider nato. We have to prepare ourselves. That's why we are also equipping you. That's why I think mag-series pa mo ani, no? It's not a first and last training or seminar that you will have. So that is all in helping you prepare para you will be able to also respond appropriately. Okay, so what is the first thing that we're going to do? We have to take care of the immediate needs. Na ay nidong nato, nagilak-hilak kung sa may iyang immediate needs. How do we know kung unsa may immediate needs? Pwedeng di man na obvious, so we have to ask. And then we have to clarify. Magsigitang storya hangtod sa makahibaw ta unsa joy ilahang kinahanglan. Nganong ni-approach man sila nato, kinahanglan ba nila o makikistorya sa counselor, kinahanglan ba nila to talk to somebody to unload, or naaba sila need within the campus, within the college na pwede nato sila i-connect. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to take care of their immediate needs, especially if there is a need for safety. No, unahon jud na above everything else, and then protect them from further threat and distress. Let's say, for example, naka-experience ng bullying and then or naka-experience ng traumatic event. We will not be able to accomplish this if i-allow nato bisag kinsa lang mangutana unsa man diyang nahitabo niya, unsa man diyang gibati, no, or na gi-refer siya sa guidance kay victim of bullying, unya everyone can just see na naa siya sa guidance, or that let's say you decided to do it in an open classroom. So dapat i-protect nato kay naka-experience na gani siya og threat, no, na violate na siguro iyang safety. We have to make sure nga dili ma-threaten na pod ang iyang safety. Okay? So, and then the third one is to give comfort and consolation. How do we do this? We have to be respectful and we have to always ask. Siyempre, the first thing that we're going to do is to introduce ourselves. Ako di IC, isa ko sa volunteers, student volunteer sa guidance. Mauni ako ang unsa may akong ikaalagad nimo. Can I talk to you? What is your name? Especially siguro no, sa chat or sa call, some of them may not even give the real names. Ang imo nalay pangutana, unsa may pwede na akong itawag nimo? No, ayaw i-force. Kaya mao na yato gitaw na be respectful. Don't force them to give their names or identity if they are not yet comfortable. If you're talking to adults, especially mga authority figure, we use their last name unless mo ingon sila na sige tawagan ra man kog Alex or boy. Pero usually mo ingon Mr. Miss dero sa hinto. And we have to listen. No? The third one is all about empathic listening. It's something ano naman po siya, no? It's easy to develop and then even improve, but it also helps in providing support to our clients. And some other ways on how we can show support and listen. Tapos taadaw po things to say and do. So I can always share the materials to Ma'am Grace. Siguro i-PDF na ako and then I will email it to Ma'am Grace if you want to have the hard copy of this one. And the fourth thing, saan na ganitong first three na to? What's the first thing that we have to do? Are you
Care for immediate needs.
okay?
Protect
Second
from
one.
further threat and distress.
And the third one?
Comfort and consolation for people in distress.
Okay, very good. Fourth one is to provide information and support for practical tasks. Para bang mga practical lang na butang and then siguro tungod sa iyahang present state mag-need siya og help, no? Naa gani mga known scenario ani na let's say namatyan, no, because of something traumatic na nahitabo, namatay ang usa ka family member. So distress siya kaayo, pero niabot sila sa point na the person needs also help on planning the funeral. So si psychological first aider also help in that aspect, no? So kung let's say for example, during the course of your talk or series of talks, nagkinahalan siya information and then she doesn't know how to go about it, pwede din mo siyang tabangan na i-research mo dong sa library or mo Google. So that is what we meant by support for practical tasks. Okay? And then the fifth one is to provide information on coping. It doesn't have to be something new. You can actually ask kung unsa may mga coping strategies that they've done in the past, especially if it has worked for them. Pero if yung coping sila mismo realize na it's not helping them in the current situation, we can also provide information on how to cope with the stress na currently iyahang experience. So we will, of course, emphasize yung positive coping and self-care. Mao ni mga helpful na coping strategies. No? Think creatively, how to adapt, talk to friends and family for support, get enough rest, nutrition and exercise, set and maintain as normal a schedule as possible, relax, okay, take part in an online support or community group and other helpful coping strategies. What is not helpful and in fact can also be harmful is yung mawad-an siyang structure, no? Nawa yung organization. Mas makasamot sa iyahang mas negative consequences sa iyahang mental health. The use of alcohol and substance. Kita ra ba no kay nate amigo na problematic gibuwagan nga tagay na ta. No, it's just actually not what we're going to do when we give psychological first aid. Okay? Encourage overeating or undereating, comfort food daw, or blaming self or others doing risky things, getting violently angry. And the sixth one is to connect with social support. So, what we have, yung message that we want to send across is that, yes, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, it's normal. You have normal reactions. Pwedeng lahi na sa ubang ma-experience sa uban, and that they don't have to go through it alone. No, mao'y importante, you don't have to go through it alone. Na there are people who can help you, no? So tagaan jud nato social support. It doesn't have to be nga kita lang kanunay, no? Mangita pud tag kinsa may pwedeng. That's why I also began yung presentation na ako with telling you about the different groups that we have in Bohol. We're so fortunate also in Bohol nga daghang groups na nag-render yung ilang services. Pwede po nato i-refer yung mga friends nato, mga kailan nato that would be needing social support. Okay? And the last one, this is already the last one, is to educate and normalize responses. So how do we do this? Mauni ang key messages na atong ipaabot sa ato ang mga client when we do psychological first aid. It's normal for people to have strong emotions in an emergency situation. You remember dun sa discussion na ako sa normal anxiety and disordered anxiety? Na at a point, na ay ano ato, it's all about di ba di nakatulog, na siya mga strong negative emotions na ma-form because of a traumatic event. Kasagaran nato would think that that is not normal. We'd even say na dili na maayo. But that's a normal reaction to something that is traumatic. Di ba? Kay kung normal day to day ano na marag makaya na nagko, but if it's something strong, it's something grave na ay loss of life or na ay harm na nahitabo, we can expect, although lahi-lahi og extent of expression or manifestation, pero pwede nato i-expect or i-predict na naadyo mga strong emotions na pang-react. So we have to normalize this. Let's encourage people to express even the negative emotion because it's part of who we are. And when we're able to express it, then ang musunod ana ba, we're on the road to healing. Kay mao man mo follow kay naka-unload naman ta, na acknowledge naman nato, gi-accept naman nato ato mga strong emotions. Now, psychological reactions to an emergency can be best understood as the reactions of normal human beings to sudden, unexpected, and unpredictable threats. Intense emotions will come and go. People will have a range of reactions and need to know that there is no right or wrong way to think, feel, and respond. Okay? Sige, Beth, from the top, what are the different or the key components of psychological first aid? What's number one?
Care for immediate needs.
Okay. Number two?
Protect from further threat and distress.
Okay. Three?
Comfort and consolation for people
Okay.
in distress.
Number four?
Provide information and support for practical tasks.
And then number five?
Provide information on being
Number six?
Connect with
social support.
And the last one?
Educate and normalize responses.
Okay, now my question is, asa anang 7 na pwedeng kamo na mga student volunteer ang muhatag, ang mo respond? Can you give information? Can you give comfort? Pwede ba nato ma-secure ang ilahang safety? Especially kung ni-approach sila within the campus. Can we help them connect with people? So number one, is that something that we can do, that you can do? Uy, wala naman nito bag. My point
Yes, ma'am.
is, di ba, yes, again, as I've mentioned, dili kinahanglan professional, dili kinahanglan si Ma'am Grace ang mo perform sa 7. Pwede ka gani na kamo on your end, as long as, again, you prepare yourselves. That's why my assignment for you is to apply this and come up with a protocol on how to respond kung naay ni chat, naay ni approach ng estudyante, unsa may kinaunhan buhaton. What do you think will be the first that you will do? Kung na estudyante nga may approach. Kahilak ba na siya? Kato ang sipon og luha. Unsa may kinaunhan daw? What is the first thing that you're going to do? Unsa may ipangutana? Naunsa ka, unsa na hitabo nimo? Unsa ganito akong gibutang, di ba? The first thing is introduce ourselves. Okay, it's also a way of establishing yung trust, yung rapport. Paila-ila sa ta, dili ta mo kalit-kalit na kinsa man ni siya, nganon mutana man siya, nganong naghilak-hilak man ko. Makapahatag po ng kakalma, especially if you're doing it in a calm manner. No, na hi, ako DIC. Kanang unsa may nimo, unsa may akong ikaalagad nimo, unsa may akong ikahatag nimo. I think based on what I'm seeing na akay concern nga nung nidong kadiri. So yung again, introduce, and then of course we have to listen, and then we have to clarify. Na kinahanglan makakahibaw ta kung i-refer gani nato, like ang excuse me, ang iyahang tuyo jud gusto siya mo storya sa counselor, gusto siya mo storya sa expert, at least inag-refer nato na ana ta ikahatag pod na background information ni Miss Counselor. Okay? So, sige, ako na lang siguro tagaan pod si Ma'am Grace ng guide. Dali lang ha. Or a template na pwede nyo i-follow because I want you to use the PFA to come up with your own protocol. Murabag, as tawagan, ano, the manual of operation. As volunteer student, if na ay estudyante na ning chat na nawag ni Dong sa campus, kung mag face-to-face na ganita, what is the first thing na akong buhaton? Nangutan ako sa unsa iyang pangalan, wala niya gihatag, unsa may akong pwedeng i-respond. So ana, something like that. Okay? Do you think that you can use the psychological first aid miski dili emergency situation? Ayu. Hilumon lagi ni mo mga tao, Miss Grace. Are you still there?
Lagi, Ma'am Car. Kinahanglan na
Sige.
sila i-push pa.
Sige lang kay ako maningi assignment and then I will help you go and check and then siguro in the future ano jud naton especially hinahinayan na sila hatag og assignment kinsay mo man sa page pero dapat maklaro og unsa may the first thing na ilahang i-chat or buhaton in responding to a fellow student. Now, psychological first aid is different from psychological debriefing. Kasi yung debriefing, this is the one that is performed by experts. Yung mga counselor, yung mga therapists. It's a formal version of providing emotional and psychological support immediately following a traumatic event. And baon yung mga goals and specific goals, process, pero di man ta ka-perform ana unless we become experts at doing it. And pag psychological debriefing, dili pwedeng one time, no? Dapat imuha yung balikon, make sure nga you have to make sure na naarang na okay na ang imuhang client. Unlike yung psychological first aid, ano lang siya, pwede siyang brief intervention. At nakahatag ka og relief na pwede hindi na mo makita afterwards. And these are the principles of PFA: prepare, look, listen, and link. So, siguro ma-adapt po ninyo yung principles sa inyong organization. So, naunta ko ano, no? Sige, ako mong, anyway, na ako ipa-assignment nga, I will just consult Miss Grace on how to do the grouping, kahit ano na lang duha ka grouping. Pero, amo mong paninglan sa assignment because I want the actual process flow or the actual protocol to come from you based on the psychological first aid. Okay, sige. Now, I will just want to share. Hindi lang po na ako kaayo stop share sa ko, ha? Pag intermission number sa Miss Grace. Wala bang mukantaan? Okay, some of the skill that we can do. E base mahadlok sila mo handle ug naay mo duol nila kay unsa man puy amo ang itubag or pwede ra ba na magtubag-tubag og unsa man. But of course, no, dili ni madag one time lang na you will have to be trained, especially when the person is suicidal or contemplating about suicide. How do you handle that? How do you handle someone who is doing emotional blackmail? Di ko nimo tagdon, maghikog ko. Na ay mga skills that has to be learned and applied to that. Okay? Pero ako ang i-share karon na wala pa siya mo open is how do we do supportive communication? Okay? As volunteer students or di man ta siguro if we're not going to become counselors in the future, di man ta pwedeng or we're not expected to perform counseling, pero na ay mga techniques sa counseling na pwede natong buhaton. So ang tawag nila ani is supportive communication. We have to communicate verbally. Na-share ba akong screen, Miss Grace? Murag wala, no?
Wala pa, Miss Ka.
Ako pang i-share balik. Ay, wait. Ano ba kung i-share kanidi ay? Basig wala na po nag-function na itong mga mind, kaya na info overload. Ako lang pong i-ano nun. Siguro through Miss Grace, you can also have copies. Ako lang yung i-save as PDF para you would know how to go about it. So how do we offer supportive communication? Di na ako kaayo mo hatag pag definition, but we do it through verbal and non-verbal. No, na yung we communicate care, concern for them na para ma-alleviate to ilahang gibati para kung they are under distress, makalma sila. There are different types. And actually, coaching or yung life coaching and counseling, these are also what part of or yung two types of supportive communication. What we can do is to listen, which is a really, really important skill. And when we say listen, ang atwa is empathic listening. When we say empathic listening, the way empathy is to understand what is happening to the person, what the person is going through his own words, his own feelings. Magkuyugan mo siya sa iyahang journey. That is empathic listening. So these are the reasons why empathic listening works. Ma-feel yung connection, no? And siyempre naminaw ka, there's nothing wrong that you can say. And yung tao ang atong giagad. The person is the one that's setting the pace. So importante ana dili nato siya dali-dalion, dili nato i-force. We even have to be comfortable with silence. Kung nahilom siya, taga ay siya time. Kaya importante man ang silence. Basig nag-process pa siya sa iyahang gibati or sa iyang gihuna-huna. Empathic listening is listening with the heart. It's seeing using the eyes of the person, and it's listening using the ears of the other person. It's feeling using the feelings of the other person. So dili lang siya basta ordinary listening. Unsa may techniques para ma-send nato, mapa-feel nato sa usa ka tawo na naminaw ta o ang paminaw nato. Pag paminaw nato nila, there is the intention to understand what this person is going through. Okay? We have reflecting. No? Pwedeng i-reflect nato ang content sa iyang istorya, ang feeling behind what was said, or the meaning behind what was uttered. And there are two types. We can do mirroring or paraphrasing, and we can also do clarifying and summarizing. So yung reflecting, so you restate both the feelings and the words of the speaker. Okay? Kaya sa may purpose ani na usahay bitaw no, para bang basig ka na siya si speaker, wala siya nakabantay na ingon ana ang iyahang pasabot or ingon ana na di ay ang iyahang gibati through what the person said. And it also encourages the person to continue talking. How do we do this? Yung mirroring is basically imuhang ibalik tong actual nag-istorya niya. So ang statement, example, again, yung mga example ko kay kininga slide was designed for suicide response. So basig na ma-sensitive or na mga going through something difficult now niya ma-trigger. Again, please, pwedeng mo contact sa ato ang mga groups. But I want to kill myself because no one cares for me and I am such a burden to everyone. How do you mirror that? So you want yung pinakamaayo daw ani as much as possible when we do the reflecting is we always start with the you, niya. So you want to kill yourself because no one cares for you and you are such a burden to everyone. Diba? Balik lang nimo kung sa iyahang message. Pero siyempre you, no? Hatag nato na mauni mong giingon, mauni you own these words. So that is mirroring. How is paraphrasing different? So yung paraphrasing is retelling, using other words to reflect what the speaker has said. So yung statement is, I want to kill myself because no one cares for me and I am such a burden to everyone. The same na statement. This time, how do you paraphrase it? You are a burden to everyone and no one cares for you. That's why you want to kill yourself. So, di ba? Nausob, no? Pero the message is still the same. Nausob lang yung pagka-state. But basically, what the person was meaning or iyahang gipaabot is the same. So yung mirroring, exact, yung paraphrasing, changing it without sacrificing yung content, yung gipasabot. Okay? Now, we can also reflect not just the content, but also the feeling and the meaning. Okay? So, tanaw ta mga example. Yun siya, I want to kill myself because no one cares for me and I am such a burden to everyone. How do you paraphrase it, concentrating on the feeling? No longer the content. Ganiha kay it was more on the content. Diba? Kung sayang istorya, maoy imong gi-reflect. So, kani you focus on what was the emotions. Unsa man kahay na feeling with what he or she said. You are deeply sad because you think you cause burden to everyone, and because of this, you want to stop living. So ang atong gibalik niya, atong gi-reflect pabdong niya, ang nakutlo nato na feeling. But of course, this is not, murabag, mauna kong giingon, eksakto ni. Mauna after this, ang usual is, am I right? Or uban kami, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I see it. You are deeply sad. So, tagaan gihapon nato siya chance na i-correct og sakto ba ang ato ang na-reflect, ang ato ang interpretation. Okay? Now, here is a statement. My mother is old already, and yet she still works hard to send us to school. Even amidst the heat of the sun, she goes to our field. Even when she is sick, she still works. So, ingat na po siya. I see that you are extremely worried for the health of your mom. Diba? Yung feeling worry. I also feel your frustration, perhaps because you want her to rest, and yet she cannot afford it because of the need to earn money for your education. So, ang iyahan ang gi-reflect adto was more again on the feeling. This is an example of reflecting the meaning. I can't understand why my parents have to break up. We are a happy family and I don't see them fighting even once. So you are confused why your parents broke up when you have a happy family and you don't see them fight even once. It's no longer concentrating on the feelings, on the emotion, no? But how unsa may ni come across na meaning sa iyahang gi-utter na statement, sa iyahang gipasabot. So this is how we reflect. Again, we reflect. Pwedeng i-mirror the same, mao'y ibalik nato niya. Ma'am, dili ka na mura taga sumay-sumay. I'm sure dili po siguro no kay ang tone, basta ang tone of the voice nato, it's come across as something na warm. It's a way of also clarifying if you get the correct meaning or the correct the correct idea. No? Nakasabot ba, kasakto ba imong pagsabot? And it's also telling the other person that you are really listening and that you're listening in order to understand, especially if nag-reflect na pud ka sa iyahang content o sa iyahang meaning. Gets? Nakuha so far?
Yes, ma'am.
O di ba kaayara no? Simple ra? No, pwede ra di ay nanay mo storya nato atong ibalik nila ang ilahang gistorya. Either actual mirroring or i-phrase nato gamay pero just the same dapat makuha yung pinaka message or daghan siyang yaw-yaw. Basig wala na siya kabantay na mao di ang gibati behind everything that person is saying. So atong i-reflect ang feelings niya. Pwede po na ang meaning, unsa iyahang pagsabot, unsa may iyahang pag-analyze sa mga panghitabo. Nga nung nag-divorce man sila, happy man ni, wala man gani sila nag-away ever. So you are confused why they broke up. Okay, now let's go to the next one, clarifying. So clarifying reassures the speaker that you are again attempting to understand the message they are expressing, and clarifying can involve asking questions or occasionally summarizing what the speaker has said. So statement, I want to kill myself because no one cares for me and I am such a burden to everyone. The same statement. How do you clarify? So you are thinking that you are a burden to everyone. That's why you want to kill yourself. Instead of saying it in a statement form, you ask because you want to be clarified. Is this correct? Sakto ba ni? And then you take it one step forward, no, or deeper. Imuhang i-probe. When you say you are a burden to everyone, what do you mean by this? So nangayon juga clarification. Unsa may pasabot di ay nimo nga burden ka sa tanan. So that is clarifying. So yung pwede daw nato ng mga gamito na statements to clarify or statements or phrases, I'm not quite sure I understand what you are saying. I don't feel clear about the main issue here. When you said blah, 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 what did you mean? Or could you repeat? Okay, so di ba always when we ask, dili lang kay open-ended, yes or no, and then kung unsa ilang itubag, we make sure that we clarify. Dili ta mo assume na atong pagsabot mao po'y ilahang pasabot. And that would really it's also a good way na mama-feel po niya na ala interesado dyan siya sa akong problema kay naaman siya mga clarifying question or naapa siya mga laing pangutana. Winaminaw jud siya. So I have someone who is supportive of me. Okay, and when we clarify, we can use open-ended questions or yung closed-ended questions na answerable lang by yes or no. Pero siyempre, ako always in asking questions, mas mo favor ko sa open-ended question. Okay? Sometimes, no, parang may mga pangutana na dili answerable by yes or no. It depends or na ay depende sa context. And summarizing is basically, that's it. You summarize. At the end of your conversation, you go through with the person, uy, kanang mauni ato ang nahisgutan, uy, dali raman di ang oras, no? We've been talking to each other for 45 minutes, for 30 minutes. Mauni ato ang mga nahisgutan, mauni itong mga na-accomplish. Okay? Ako gani sometimes like, I'm also sure sila Miss Grace, yung mga counselor nato, that if we're talking to someone and kanang para dili ma-disrupt ang session with the student, with the client, dili ka sulat-sulat or mag-take down notes kay sahay manggod maka-interrupt. Pero para I can later write it down pag nahuman namong conversation, what I do is after siguro mga 5 or 7 information na mag-gather, akong i-summarize para po ma-practice sa mind. And then of course, ma-clarify dayon sa client. So, i-summarize what you have gone through together, what you have discussed, unsa may inyuhang mga, unsa iyahang na-decidean, unsa may iyahang mga buhaton afterwards, or naapa ba siya mga laid needs. After summarizing, you can also ask, no, naapa ba siya mga lain na concern or needs na wala na nastoryahan or na-discuss. Okay? Naapoy gihatag na mga empathic response leads. So when you ask daw, you use kini nga mga phrases to show that you are doing empathic listening. No? So kind of feeling is a sort of saying, as I get it, you felt that I'm picking up that you. So something like that. Okay? So naapod tayo mga do's and don'ts in listening. So sa verbal, yung parallel talk, dili magdungan og storya. Subtractive responses, nakmakulangan, inagbalik nimo, inag-reflect kulangan ang imuhang kulangan ang yang istorya from what you give. And yung generalize, tanan man taan na, normal man na sa tanang tao. Okay, ma-invalidate na hinuon na, tanan di ay, di na lang, wala di angay na, di ko'y right na maka-experience ani. Let's also not spiritualize or sermonize. No, let's not make them feel guilty. For all we know, they are already under a lot of guilt. That's not part of what we do. What we do is to support, make them feel safe, and that they are in a judgment-free environment. Yung counter-disclosure, yung storya siya, ikaw mo story sharing na pagka sa imuhang kinabuhi. Siyempre, you can do that with your friends, but when we respond to your peers, dili na siya maayo or dili na siya effective. Okay, let's not give advice. Let's try to help the person to come up with his own or her own solution. Tabangan lang nato to look for the alternatives. And yung placate ba, kanang imuha na, sige na lang, basta di na lang ka ma-distress, okay na mo agree na lang ka, pakalmahon na lang nimo, pero wala na express ang iyahang whole range of emotions. Unsa may mga doon sa nonverbal, yone, manguyab, yung jerky movement, kalit kag change sa imong body position, yung makuratan po din mong kastorya, looking at the clock, siyempre that's rude, disrespectful, and the other distracting mannerisms and gestures. We also have to be careful of touch. No, kay basig na yung mga tao na dili komportable sa touch, especially if sa tawag, opposite sex. By the way, no, when pwede po di-appeal niyo sa inyong protocol, apil sa pananghe, di ba kay, can I assist you? Do you want to talk to me about your concern? I-appeal po ana na if kanang opposite sex mo, kung okay ra ba niya nga ikaw ang mustorya. Okay, basig na siya mga sensitive na issues or topics na di siya ganahan mustorya to agay. It would be awkward to talk to agay, yung babae siya. So apilo na ninyo sa inyong protocol na you will ask this na if it's okay na since I am male, is it okay for you to tell me about your issues or concerns or to talk to me? O dili, i-refer natin siya sa female na student volunteer. Okay? And then, sa do's, so yung mga sa verbal, yun yung mga do's. Aside from the questions, yung ating non-verbals, we also have to send a message across na we're really listening attentively and we are open to the person. That you are someone that person can trust. How do you do that? Maoning acronym niya soften. S is to smile, di ba? Yung basta mo smile na, I'm sure makalma na siya or ma-feel na I am welcomed. Here is someone who is willing to listen to me. Open posture instead of yung nag-cross ang hands or yung mga legs na cross-legged. Di mo bilang ka. No, medyo open lang to up to a certain degree. Pakita lang. Na ideally when you talk to a person, yung open palm mo na sa ibabaw sa imuhang mga legs. No? Dili yung mag-cross the forward lean. So di ba, man ay way of showing that you are interested, naka-lean forward ka. Again, touch appropriately. No? Yung hindi we have to be careful with touching, especially if di ganahan or na history of abuse or trauma, dili ganahan matouch. Eye contact, importante na siya. And nod. Pati yung mga verbal po na prompt na ipapadayon. Yung okay, yan na. Yes, so parang i-encourage mo yung other person to continue sharing or talking. Okay, so these are just example also na I found on the internet of unsa may pwede, no, fully, no, as a way of doing supportive communication. Instead of saying you'll be fine, you try say I understand. Instead of saying you should, what makes you feel supported? It's okay, I'm listening. I want, tell me more. So maunay para bang dili ka mag-counter disclosure, bingon ka na I once also experienced that. No, the focus should be on the person needing help. Tell me more. Instead of saying, how are you? What made you smile today? So mas makahatag, mas concrete. Kayong how are you today? It's really general. And there are also other materials on the internet. Marakong na ako'y ganahan na look on the bright side. Mao naman ay mga usual na ilang ingon, no? Instead of saying you try, your feelings are valid. So we make it known na valid ang ilang feelings. And I think this is the last one for this slide. Na I just came across this one na the Piglet was really showing what it is to show supportive communication. So ingon si Pooh, today was a difficult day, said Pooh. Then there was a pause. Do you want to talk about it? Asked Piglet. No, said Pooh after a bit. No, I don't think I do. That's okay, said Piglet. And he came and sat beside his friend. What are you doing? Asked Pooh. Nothing really, said Piglet. Only I know what difficult days are like. I quite often don't feel like talking about it on my difficult days either. But goodness, continued Piglet, difficult days are so much easier when you know you've got someone there for you. And I'll always be here for you, Pooh. And as Pooh sat there working through in his head his difficult day, while the solid, reliable Piglet sat next to him quietly, swinging his little legs, he thought that his best friend had never been more right. So supportive communication sometimes doesn't even mean na you will talk. You will just show that you're there, physically present, makahatag-latag support nila. And that we also have to be comfortable with silence. Na yung ibang tao nga di sila ganahan ng silence. But the important thing is we are able to give support. Okay. Anong oras na ba, Miss Grace?
Before 7, ma'am.
Oh, gamay na lang, pila lang mga slides ning self-care. I just want to highlight that when we talk to people, when we give them service, when we give them help, when we give them support, of course, no, if you're offering service or support to other people, dapat you're also giving support to yourself. Importante nato jud sa in helping people, especially yung sa mental health advocacy, that we are also providing support to ourselves. So mauna yung last ni, and it's just ano lang. Okay, actually no, I also did this for yung mga Baisuans peer facilitators, Miss Grace. I think we had before retooling and appeal jud tong talk that I gave to them was caring for carers. Okay, screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. Anong nangyari po? Pwede lang i-click. Okay, so taking care of yourself. Kamay na lang niya. Ito na rin i-breeze through. So again, we have to take care of ourselves. Okay, we are exposed to people with problems, and then of course you also have your own issues. You also have your own well-being and mental health to take care of. Kung sa may mabuhat nato, let's practice the ABCs of self-care. A is awareness, B is balance, and C is connection. So awareness and normalization of your responses to stress. So mauna A. And how do you do this? So you have to also assure, you also have to read, you also have to get information na kining imuhang mga gibati, it's a normal reaction, or naana ba kay mga warning signs. Basta you have to be aware of what you're feeling, of what you're thinking, and even what you're doing, no? Kay basi usahay dili ta kabantay na mao ni ato ang gibuhat or gistorya. And the second one is B is balance between your life and the demands of your work. Hindi pwedeng mura bag si Miss Grace iya daw tanan siya respond tanan sa request. Dapat there is a balance because beyond what we do, beyond our work, beyond our being a student volunteer, we also have other things to pursue, right? So dapat establish yung boundary. You have to rest, you have to take regular breaks. Don't take too many responsibilities that you cannot handle. And of course, important is stress management, eating healthy, and doing exercise. And important is siyempre, as always, ako yung i-emphasize ni connection, social support. Siguro, among the volunteers, you also schedule yung time to de-stress. Makastorya ba mo sa may yung mga activities na buhaton, mag-play ba mong games? Basta as long as ma-address po ang inyong need to connect or for social support. That's it. So pwede na tayong mag-Q&A. Any question? Yes, Mr. Junde, naa ba sila yung mga question?
Thank you so much, Ma'am Karen. We're totally blessed to hear those kindest word of enlightenment, especially this time of pandemic, wherein we're all having mental health issues, and it is very rampant nowadays. Again, thank you, Ma'am. So everyone who have some questions, we will now entertain them.
Meron ako nakitang chat.
Chat, okay.
Wala ra po yung tubag. Or even beyond this, no, kanang kay naama po ko ihatag na assignment ninyo na amo pong i-follow up ni Miss Grace. Kasi later ba or siguro mga several hours or days after if naamoy na formulate na question, you can also give that to Ma'am Grace and then pwede na po niya i-communicate na ako. And I'll try to get the information for you.
Sige, Ma'am. So, karon pwede ta magpahuway sa lang kayo kung request ko permission, Ma'am, if pwede ba pahuway sa takaryo na ko giset nga icebreaker aron
Okay, go.
kuan po ning mga namin attend karon pila ta kabok na 18 participants. So ang atong icebreaker karon is duwa nga truth or dare. Kuan ani is magnakoy mga trivia, then maka-answer sa trivia is ang ako silbi ang makanan sa consequence nga truth or dare. Pero if dili siya maka-answer, mupili ko within aning participants karon og unsa iyang i-consequence sa kadtong wala maka-answer. Truth ba or dare? Jibang tanan. Ma'am Grace?
Go.
Go. So request na unta po ko nga ipangkuan nato ni tanan, mag-open cam ta og unmute ta tanan karong makita ang atong mga gwapa o gwapong ning attend karon.
Unsaon tagsip?
So mag-start ta sa trivia number 1. What is the longest word? So karon mag-random tani, random. Naaba si Glaizaan Handugan. Glaiza, Miss Glaiza. Miss Glaiza Handugan. I think wala si Miss Glaiza. So karon or wala gyud mo tingog, unsa man gyud Miss Glaiza? So ari na lang ta ni Miss April Jane Tabigi. Miss April.
Is that a question?
Ang trivia na to karon is what is the longest word?
Longest word? Wow.
Wala. So wala. So araw makanta guys, ang longest word is pneumono ultramicroscopic silivolcanoconiosis. Muna siya. So wala man siya, mangita ta sa panel na to karon if truth ba or dare. Marita. Mag-start ta ni Ma'am Grace. Arita, Ma'am Grace, unsa may imong consequence? So kay wa man mag-answer truth ba or dare?
Truth na lang kay wala man ko naka-andam og one. There.
So Ma'am Grace, unsa may question nimo about ni April Jane? Nga mutugan siya ka tinud-anon.
Paano lang, with regards to the para appeal siya, no? In-line siya sa ato ang activity karon. So April, what are your takeaways? Ano man yung mga na-learn karon ng activity?
Na-learn mga ideas o unsaon nimo pagtawag sa mga tao nga muduol nimo og naay musik sila og health ideas o unsaon nimo bitaw proper ka nga unsaon ni pag-respond nila in a proper way in a respectful way, and then na-learn sa naho nga importante ang ano bitaw kanang sana importante ang kanang i-manage sa nimo ang mga imong stress, imong mga problems, and then talk to friends or relatives na maka-help sa nimo. Tama tayong
Will explain kayo, no? Gikan ni Miss April. So karon sa ari na punta start dayon ta sa atong second trivia. So ang ikaduhang trivia is how many times does the heart beat per day? Anita ni Miss Rika. Anita, Rika. Naaba si Rika?
Okay, tumag, be.
Ano man? Wait, Ma'am Grace, mo lagi familiar, Ma'am Grace. So,
Oh.
Ma'am Grace, no?
Ako na rin tumag.
Murag litsod lagi pangutana lagi.
How many times does the heart beats per day?
Deja vu.
Oh.
Deja vu, ma'am. Deja vu.
Wala. Rika, wala. Wala. Arita ni Ma'am Celine daw kay mura gusto gyud siya mo answer.
Ako makatubag ko, ana.
Sige, pila man ma'am.
Ang question na is how many times does the heart beat per day?
Yes, ma'am.
So ang answer is about 100,000.
Yes, ma'am. Precisely. So karon ako may nalaot sa akong question. Ikaw ma'am, unsa man nimo ha? Truth or dare? Kay murag pildi man ko.
Ba't ako?
Dili, ako imong pangutan-on. Ari ka mangutanan ako.
Sige. Ako mo tanan mo. Sige. Saan mo? There.
There. Adi, kuha na ko ma'am, ako mo pili truth ba or dare. So ang ako na lang is truth na lang oy. Kay murag kapoy mo ko sige truth unsa may imong pangutana ma'am? Ready ko motubag. Ni ma'am?
Ingatan no, so truth man no. So, unsa man imong feel nimo karon as a host?
Unsa ma'am? Ba pakibalik ma'am?
Feel nimo karon as a host?
Unsay?
Na feel nimo karon?
So honest opinion ng ma'am kinanhan kay mo mugawas gyud akong heart bitaw, musobra na imbes to 100,000 per day, mo times 3, mo imong 300. Grabe murag. Kay first time pud nako man ya. Murag unstable pud ang network niya. Karon sa office na yung mga live participants pud nako ane mo gasig. So muna murag no pressure ko gamay pero karon okay ra man gyapon ma'am. Padayon arong at least learning experience na pud ni para nako man.
Very good.
So ani na po ta last trivia para sa kaan. Dapat na mo there no, na mo kanta unta ani.
Yes, dapat jud.
Dapat unta. So duga na to ni kani. Next question is what percentage of our bodies is made up of water? So arita ni Abner, na ba si Abner? Abner Ido.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sa ating pangutana?
Ang pangutana is what percentage of our bodies is made up of water?
Laki.
Ako, B.
Sige, i-save na lang ko, be. Kay galutaw pa yung kaigikan po ko sa another na Zoom meeting.
Wala si Abner Ido.
Dave, di ka mangutana na ako, Dave.
Ako, B.
Ay. Kiba naman ni sila Ira o si Ate Hanili. Ako na po'y mapildi. Wag hapon. Ako may makasayaw. Wala man. So areta ni Abner Ido. Pildi man si Abner Ido. Mangita tag mo consequence niya. Sige, areta ni Ate Hanili. Ikaw Ate Hanili, unsa may consequence mo ni Abner Ido?
Ay, grabe.
There.
Truth na lang. Di ko mo dare.
There.
There. Unsa man? Truth or dare?
Kanta or sayaw?
Truth na lang. Truth, truth.
Truth, gid ya ha, truth. Aw, pwede ba ako yung mukha na lang, ane? Mo pangutana?
Pwede.
So, kani, if ever na kay mag-suffer ka og mental stress, willing ba ka kaayo mo share sa imuhang crush? Sige.
Cash judge.
Crush.
Necessary na crush.
Pwede ra love, lain man sad kong loved ones. Kanang kuan gid mo like imuhang gi look up as a
Mas
person.
better mo ang family compared to crush.
Family kang Abner Ido. Imo ate Hanili?
Willing ka mo share? Yes, of course.
Ay,
Kay
char.
ano man, wala na siya way of de-stressing. Charot.
Mm.
Wala siya. Willing ko mo share. If ever gani nga kanang tumurag way nga para man lang mawala ang burden sa akong utok. Charot. Sa to, ngana. Kana siya.
Sige, maayo. Napokoy konting feedback kay ngano. Di ba if makakita ta ni crush sa high kay marag mawa tong stress, ma-excite ta nga ganahan. Ba.
Pass.
Ako ra ba?
Sana all like crush.
Bitaw no, sana all.
crush.
Sana all like crush. So, moving on. Sa man last question na lang ta kay iniguman ani marag na-refresh naman mo marag active naman tanan mangutana ta balik para sa atong question and answer arong ma-final na to. So, ang last trivia is what is the shortest complete sentence in language? Unsaan?
Ako, be.
So, wala man.
Ako
Asa
ba?
ta? Arita ni... wala man si ma'am. Arita, ma'am Grace. Ma'am Grace. Ma'am Grace. Ma'am Grace.
Is it question?
Ako, B?
Ang question
Shortest
is...
complete sentence?
Yes, what is the shortest complete sentence?
Gasan ni host.
Ako, B? Ako. Aba ko na-share ni Tagsip pagkuan.
Go, be. Try ko.
Sige ma'am. Unsa man, ma'am Grace?
Go.
Wow! Sakto!
Patay ka
Yes, there.
There na yan.
There
na yan.
na.
There na yan. There.
There, yun. Dapat mo there ko. Dapat mo. Sige, pagbigyan. Mo there na lang ko. Sige.
Sayaw o katong kuan bombastic.
Ang hatag of there kay si Ira.
Sige, there. Kalabong na
Ano
kay
si Ira man?
Sayaw o bombastic tem.
Ano kay bawad to?
Simple-dimple na lang.
Simple dimple. Ano sa ganito? Wait, aritang Kuya Dar. Simple dimple ko na Kuya Dar.
Wait lang sa.
With music.
Wait, ato iatras sa na ha. Pampawala sa mental stress ninyo. Simple dimple ba? Yo Kuya Dar, simple dimple tayo lang request.
Sure, with sounds,
Ready kayo sa Nehan. Naka-ready. 100%.
Pag ma-expose na dyan atong pagkakuan, ano no?
Go, Dave.
Dako ngisig yun sa Ira, oh. So, mo na. So, moving on. Ano naman tayo tatanan? Marag na-refresh na itong nahuna. Nagsige nagtising ang atong mga naong. Nanabay sa mga pangutan na to about sa ato ang speaker. Wala ba? All clear na ba?
Maybe I can start the question. Ako na lang, mga na.
Sige
Ay,
ma'am.
sige na si Kim.
Sige.
Sige, go. Unsa?
Si Kim. So I'll just read na lang unsa ang chat, no? So Kim asked na, I just want to ask, just clarify, ma'am, are you connected sa Laong Bohol, ma'am? Because you have the same advocacy about mental health. What if na earthquake, ma'am, and naami sa campus and a certain person has no identification or any identity nga amo na ma-rescue para dalon sa family? What shall we do in order to contact the family of the person? Asa may first mo do? Because I believe maratong tanan dyan if na calamity. Can we apply psychological stress debriefing, ma'am? In what way?
Hala, bongga ang mga questions.
Di lagi na, kuya.
Nagtigom siya. First, yung Manyumin Laong Bohol, yung initiative ng government of Bohol, no, ni Governor Art Yap. Tanan, i-invite niya tanan actually mga mental groups to be part of that. In fact, today, ganihan ay ceremony sa Capitol, appeal sa gi-recognize kita ang certificate ang pagpakabuhi. Wala lang ko ka-represent po ang uban kay we also have obligations. So, in a way, appeal mi sa yung amuma na say tawag na sub-part of the whole Laong Bohol program. So, cooperate pod mi ana ni coordinate pod mi kay para man sa kaayuhan nato. Kaning sa identification na mangutana bitaw-tan, no? We have to coordinate kung unsay kay ang pinaka-importante sa diri sa part sa ato ang psychological first aid is we also have to be aware of the protocol of the policies po sa ato ang sa tawag ani si pangalan na sir disaster bitaw sa atong LGU or sa atong province NR
MDRRMC ata na ma'am.
Murag ana, we have to also siguro part of what we're going to do na like let's say if we want to know more about this one, no, lisod na po ng walang identity unsaon nato pag rescue. But yours it's saying ba na unsa man ni siya wala po siya capability to tell us kung kinsa siya. Wala siya ID pero the person himself or herself or basig na shock pa siguro. But we also have to be clarified og unsay policy unsay protocol ana na if we will try our best pero if again yan atong style if dili kaya sa atua sa atong resources sa atong capability we have to refer, so we have to coordinate sa mga local agencies, government organizations or agencies kung unsay protocol ani unsay buhaton. Even in school we have to be aware of yung unsa may policy sa school. Pag kaniyang nahitabo, naama na yung mga usual na nakaset forth na policy. Naawa na ba, Miss Grace? Pag ingon na-identify naman, nag-earthquake drill naman mo, di ba? Klaro naman na ninyo what you will do.
Actually, wala pa drill. Wala pa may drill.
Wala pa mo nag-drill, no? Dugay-dugay na?
Oo.
Pero naklaro naman to sa una, di ba? Unsay buhaton, kinsa may point person or focal person. You also have to set that as part of your protocol na kamo ang muhatag sa psychological first aid pero dapat kay ba mo kung kinsa inyong kauban po na mo work within that. Asa ta mo refer. Importante po si referral. Sa pa to isa yung question, maratol man jud ta kay mao na normal reaction to earthquake. But again, let's learn how to regulate our emotions. Nakita may muhatag og support so kinahanglan kita ang model of calmness. No, siguro but of course it's normal na even before or after na atay mga bation na negative emotion. We are not allowed, we are not trained to do psychological stress debriefing. It's only the experts who can do that. As I've mentioned, it's a deeper processing. So yung mga counselor, yung mga specialist na ang mubuhat ana. Ang atua lang, kamo may alay nila kay di man na nila tanan makaya. Pila ra may proportion of counselor to students. Ang ato lang kamo ang muhatag sa psychological first aid, which is really basically yung pinaka in a nutshell yung psychological first aid kay ipakalma, ipastabilize ninyo and then you get information, you give information and then you refer. But when do we refer? Dili kay first na duol, refer ta dayon. Diba? So we have to gather information first. How important is PFA from physical first aid? Because of course, yung physical first aid, ang iyahalang, o si ano niya, si Hanili, I'm reading already kay your questions are coming in. Yung physical first aid is, di ba, it's even crucial. No, it can prevent life altering or yung mga potential na injurious or potential harm to the life of the person. But it does not address the emotional health, the emotional component. So mauna naghimutag psychological first aid. Kung maghimo gani taog something to address the physical component of health, we should also address yung mental emotional health. Does forgetting or neglecting your problems, is it helpful to prevent stress or depression? How do you do forgetting? Munang motivated forgetting. Para na ako no sa kadaghang theories and daghang pamaagi, methodology, para na ako what really works best for us to cope and move forward is to accept our problems, face our problems, and then try to move forward. If di nato makaya, we seek help. So yung forgetting or neglecting, these are just examples of escape or avoidance. Sunny, what to do if you want to express yourself to someone but they're close-minded? Hala, di ra ba na tumapugos ang ubang tao? Like, how do you express you like that person? Isa mani. Mo ano na ka? Sanay mo propose na ka or what is the expressing all about? Di nato mapugos sa mga tao, no? Even we cannot force people to like us to have the same emotion. If they're close-minded, the best that we can do is try to present information, give them ideas, pero pwede gud sila mo balibad. We have no control over them. Ang importante lang sad, we are respectful. Di ta mamugos. Di siya ganahan makistorya nato. So be it. Para lang ako, at least try. But again, be respectful and do it in a non-confrontational manner. Okay, usahay man good if confrontational tayo emotional, masabot masilag ka close-minded. O masabot mo sila ka close. Unsa maning no, we haven't. Wala ko kasabot sa
I
no,
think
we
sa
haven't.
drill na siya, Miss
Sa drill. No, that's something also na we have to clarify. We have to know sa atong palibot kisa may ato ang mga who are also providing services and how do we coordinate with them. Unsa may protocol nila ani. I'm sure kay kana mga Red Cross, kana mga NDRMC na sila protocol ana. So we will get in touch with them. Because timing siya na pandemic after na open ng TCC, ODI, no? You only launch after na pandemic na?
1 year.
Pero naka face-to-face pa mo, Miss Grace?
1 year lang, ma'am.
So wala pa din yung mga na-establish, no?
Wala pa dyan siya on the process of
it's something that, ano po na ninyo na, so pwede naman na you work together as a team and then when again para nako importante jud na murag na amoy manual of operation. Unsa may steps kamoy mo set ana. But the basis would be the psychological first aid. Diba naaman to gather information or look for other support. Di hanapon mo ano na asa man ta. For these needs, kinsa may pwedeng i-refer. Let's say for example, nag-need siya og psychiatric help. Kinsa may available na psychiatrist. Nag-need siya og support group, naabatay support group. So you will also get information. Okay? So mauna siya. Ako pa mong gitagaan og more assignment. It's also something that you have to establish. What to do if a certain person na imong kastorya is ning burst out sa iyang emotions, like ikaw na iyang gikasukan or like ikaw na ang nag-receive sa iyang anger. Siguro ang first na suggestion ani is ensure your safety or security. Okay? And then kung violent na siya, marabag siguro it's more of an appeal na I am willing to listen to you. I'm here to help you, but you be honest also na you're being threatened, and if magpadayon siya, then na dili ka magpadayon sa inyong conversation. Of course, ang pinaka ana is there, if there is a threat to our safety and security, mao jud ato ang buhaton. Okay, ganahan ta mag-help niya, pero pasakita naman ka or whatever, nahadok naman ka. So, unahon jud nimo yung mga safety and security. Mao gani pod sa mga, do you practice at Grace na sa inyong counseling offices na ay other door?
Na ay sa Miss Mar,
May other door, there's a way for you to exit.
we only have one door, Miss Mar.
Yung sa man na og
Sa
sa man nag
mo tago dito sa ilang sa lamisa.
nagyugnay magbayolente kay murag na ay nahitabo po sa issue di ba, na murag na feel niya na na-trap siya sa corner. Kay ni advanced naman tong student, and yung student was manic. Although wala man po nahitabo ang word, pero that's also something that na you're, di ba, when you talk, you make sure na safe ang inyong client, pero you also have to make sure na safe mo, na amoy way to exit to protect yourselves. And mao to, na we have to set rules, miski na in distress sila, miski na ganahan ta makatabang. Ingnan na if you, miski gani ka na magsigig pamalikas and you're not comfortable with that, ingnan sila na I don't feel safe right now. Di ko ganahan na malikas ka, but I want to help you. Pwede bang di ka mamalikas? Pwede bang hinaya ni mo yung tingog, or pwede bang mulingkod ka balik? Kayo, dili, I'm sorry, but we have to end this conversation. We have to end this session. Unahon jud nato atong safety. Why are some people good at giving advices but aren't, ay maraming philosophical man, sa ni kanta ni siya or ano? Why are some people good at giving advices but aren't good at giving advice to themselves? The problem is not in giving advice, but it's on following your own advice. Bisi gani nga ng mga gitagana atong advice, di man ta sure na ilahan ang i-follow. What more ikaw o random thought lang daw. Bitaw, di ba? Kay bawo man kausahay rationally, but different po tong pagbuhat, pag-perform. And of course, maunang we also go or talk to someone else, talk to someone objective. Kay kita man ana, di man ta kaayo kakita ana objectively kay ato man ang kaugalingong emotions. So miski mga counselors, miski mga psychologists, they also consult other psychologists and counselors. If a person has a family, love, and school problem, ni-ask siya sa usa sa mga guidance volunteers, is it necessary to give advices sa iyang problem or we need to listen lang? Diba sa may no-no? Dili mo hatag og advice, pero i-guide siya into coming up with options sa maiyahang plan, and at the end siya gihapoy mo decide sa iyahang buhaton. And all say tawag ani ang role ninyo as student volunteers is to give supportive communication, no, empathic listening, aside from the gathering of information, clarifying. If you think na mas mo benefit siya, it's something that you cannot handle, or mas mo benefit siya from a counseling session with a counselor, so inyo hanap po siyang i-refer. Schedule niyo siya sa guidance. Yung sarang i-relation sa word sa guidance. No na. Ako mismo personal na ako nga say tawagan na principle and philosophy. Do not offer advice. Do not give out free advices. Unless konsultahon, pero inagkonsultahon ko, ihatag lang na ako ang options. This is what you can do. Mauni possible consequences. It's still up. You also have to empower the person. Kay kung kita may mohatag sa solution, murag in the long run, di gihapon ta katabang kay wala man yan na empower, wala man yan na build ang iyahang self. What if the support system is the main cause of his or her problem or issues? Yes, daghanang nga issue na ang support system. Mao gani no, ang family, ang social networks, they are both the protective factors and they can also be the precipitating factors. And what can we do? Daghan ta mga issues sa family. Then, kung dili kahatag og support ang family, natay mga support groups. Musik siya siguro og support groups, pero dami gud unta na ang family mismo kay mao man ay main jud na mohatag, pero na that's actually yung what we're seeing now, no? A lot of our problems that we are seeing, that we are observing, it's because of yung mga issues nila sa family, ang mga gubot. So yeah, I get you na now what to do if the family that should be offering support is the one that is giving you the problem. What to do with resistant or hesitant person with issues? Can you clarify, please? What do you mean by this? Ang sa maning hesitant sila sa issues.
Those who are not telling you on their issues na there are times bitaw na people will just go there and then when you ask, may na sila, ay, ayaw na lang.
Ay, oo, no. Mahadlok na ano. A lot of the work would be on earning their trust, establishing rapport. Pero dito ka pamugos. Okay, they have to make the decision to seek help. Daghan bitaw sa atong problema actually, Grace, is yung dili mo seek og help. Dili for stigma or whatever. Daghan naman tatag resources, services, pero sila mismo, di ba importante yung word na will. And that's not something that we can force them to do. Ako lang siguro, ang ako makita nani or ang style ani is to consistently show support or i-follow up. Ay, kamusta naman ka kanang tapos pahinumduman ni maghapon na if for anything at all, if you just want to talk, if you just want to chat, know that I will always be here. Lang nato sila i-consistently follow up, pero siyempre kinahanglan jud they take the first step and acknowledge that they have a problem and that they need our help. Beyond that, di ta ka pamugos. Okay. Ma-violate po nila dignity as a person. Daghang ba day cases ana no? But you can actually do also awareness program. Na may mga study na yung mga awareness program. Actually, before intervention, ang first thing that we do is to try to break the stigma, increase the awareness. So pwede tang information dissemination, hatag pa tang mga awareness para ma-lessen ang stigma ba. That they don't have to be you can also create programs na mas ma-maximize ang pagdong nila sa guidance. Lahi magutag idea sa guidance na growing up, marabag og mudong ka sa guidance kay sad-an ka, kay problema or delinquent ka. So that's also still something that we have to change. So you can actually have programs na ma-introduce, mas makasabot sila, and even siguro i-associate with something fun, enjoyable ang guidance office para ma-remove ang hesitations. Naapa ba?
I guess that's all the questions, ma'am. Na-clear out na gid ang tanan.
Oo, gani. But again, if you still think of other, pero na-curious po ko no, sa inyong mga questions, it's also something that I would like to know. Unsa kay i-follow na protocol sa ato ang LGU on who are we going? Wala pa man po ka-try og PFA nato diri sa Bohol and kinsa may ato ang pwedeng duolon. So together, let's find out. Yes, June, thank you.
Ma'am, thank you, Ma'am Karen. So, Now let's proceed to our presentation of certificate and word of gratitude to be given by Miss Hanily Fajardo.
This certificate of appreciation is presented to Mrs. Karen Flood Kapapas for sharing your expertise and spending your free time with us, teaching us, inspiring us, encouraging us, helping us as a resource speaker in the Psychological First Aid and Mental Health Response webinar on October 15, 2021, conducted by Tagbilaran City College through the Guidance and Counseling Office. Signed by Ma'am Grace S. De Rosahinto, MAED GC, RGC, and Sir Leonidas L. Borja, MPA, and JT.
Thank you.
So for the words of gratitude, I am actually happy to see that a lot of the volunteers participated in this webinar. So thank you, volunteers, for giving us your time. Second, I would like to thank our speaker for today, Mrs. Karen Kapapas, for sharing her knowledge in regards to the topics psychological first aid and mental health response, and for lending us your time. Thank you so much, ma'am. I
Thank
actually
you.
learned a lot. There are some information that are new to me and some are somewhat familiar, especially psychological first aid, because the first thing that really comes into mind when I hear first aid is physical first aid, like treating wounds, cuts, bruises, and etc. Also with the supportive communications, which is really helpful in helping someone in distress. So this webinar actually broadened my mind in regards to mental health. Lastly, I would like to give thanks to Ma'am Grace and Ma'am Celine, our guidance peer advisors, for organizing this webinar. So thank you so much, Ma'am. Thank you, Ma'am Kapapas, Ma'am Grace. Thank you, Ma'am Celine. And thank you, everyone. I am hoping we all learned something new today. And that will be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Hanily. So, may I remind everyone, para lang sa atong evaluation, isend ni siya through link tali sa atong GC. So, please answer the evaluation. A link shall be posted at the chat box before the end of the webinar. Please complete and answer the online form for 45 minutes. 2 is a certificate will be emailed to your email address indicated in your evaluation. Please give us time to send it to you. For concerns with certificates, please email at guidanceandcounseling2020@gmail.com. Okay, thank you.
Okay, please check the chat box. Nana ang link for the evaluation.
Ulit na ko, Miss Grace, ha? Kay mauli na ko.
Thank you, Ma'am Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
spending your
you.
afternoon with us. So I hope you have learned a lot. And please don't forget to answer the evaluation form. So we'll be basing your e-certificates on the forms that you answered. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before you leave, there are reminders na ihatag si Ma'am Celine, no?
So, while answering no, sa inyong evaluations, so remind ko, while mag-answer, so mag-remind lang ko for committees no, of wellness area, session, Please set your
So make sure that you have clicked the link. I will be closing this this meet in 5 seconds. So make sure that you have clicked the link na nag-post ni Ma'am Celine for the evaluation. What was the responses? Okay, may responses. Mga 455 na lang. So I'll end the Zoom meeting now in 3, 2,